Hello everyone, and I hope you're enjoying your Sunday evening as you join us here for the oNiD Hound Weekender GT3 Championship Round 5 here at Circuit of the Americas on the national layout we're on today with some of these fabulous GT3 cars. And as you can see, October 5th, Round 5 of the championship. Only one more to go after this at Spa next weekend. But before we get there, we've got to get underway with qualifying at this circuit. As you can see, here's our championship standings so far. James Cowley, his second place of the season last time out, with Anton Semenga taking their first win, but Cowley still on top of the Pro Championship. Overall championship, 244 points, with Anton Semenga in second on 209, with Chris Downing on 193. But before I go any further into that, I'm joined as always by Angela Scott. How are you doing, Angela?
I'm doing wonderfully. It's a very interesting track we've got here, very technical, very hot as well. We'll see what the temperatures are in a moment. But just before we do, let's also have a look at those class standings. Of course, Pro standings, very similar, sort of mirrors the overall standings. But in terms of the AM standings, we have Charlie Morgan leading the way. 12 points lead, not as much as James Cowley's, but when you look at everyone behind, Charlie Morgan, that is a nice little gap. As you got Jason Carpenter 12 points off, Ralph Vest 16, Tom Watson 18 points off, then Craig Foreman, Ron Arbutolfsson tied 25 points off the lead. That's the top 6 in the AM standings, all within the same gap as the top 2 in the Pro standings. So very close in the AM standings, and this could be a make or break race. We do have some people. I know Medusa Carpenter is missing tonight, but there is a drop round in the series, so it does mean that the drivers won't necessarily lose out, but they won't have that sort of safety fence of having the drop round in case a round ends in disaster. As Tom mentioned, we must qualify first, and we're a little bit into qualifying now. It is, unsurprisingly, it is James Cowley who is leading the way at the moment, coming through into the S's now, as they're on a lap. Let's try and bring up the timing. It's only 18,000s that they are at the front by, but they are improving on this latest lap. Into the little short chute now. That makes up the national lay onto the back straight after a purple opening sector for this lap. Now into the tight left-hander, usually a big braking zone after that long strip. Of course, cutting it short, it is not too tricky. Then this very technical final sector can be quite awkward, especially the double tightening left-hander that we're coming into. Let's see a fellow Lamborghini driver just getting out of the way for Cowley, letting them go through. We haven't had a second sector time come through, so I'm worried that Cowley has invalidated this lap, but we'll see it through to the finish line just in case.
Yep, we'll keep an eye on him now as he makes his way around the second to last corner. Now up to the final corner. We'll jump onto the brakes now and turn the car in. But as you say, haven't seen any other sector times from themselves yet. Was pole last time out and does go to the top of the times actually. James Cowley, 1 minute 32, is still on pole position. Downing only just off of that as things currently stand, 0.082. off of the pole position time. Then last time out's winner, Anton Temenga, currently purple in the first sector and purple in the middle sector. So can they hold on to it around these final couple of corners? Makes their exit out of the final corner up towards start finish line. It is pole position at 1 minute 32.470 is the fastest time of the session so far. And here to the only other two-time pole sitter of the season, Ralph Vest has taken 2 pole positions in the amateur class. Only him and James Cowley have had repeated poles this season, and as things currently stand, Ralph Vest looks like they're on to do that again. Is currently the head of the AMS field and is green, and can they make it another green coming into this final sector? We'll go around the second to last corner, keeps it within those white lines, and now just has one more corner to go before the run up towards the start finish line. Again, just about keeps it within the track limits there, crosses line and goes up to 4th. A great time by Ralph Vest, a purple last sector as well. Craig Foreman up to 7th, I believe, there, about 1.2 seconds back from the overall pole position time, but it's only a 10th, or well, just over a 10th back from Zach Silva. Rune Bertolson also has had a pole this season at Sebring, is currently 11th overall in the standings of this qualifying session, so we'll be hoping for something a little bit better as he goes round, but currently green in the first sector, so we'll see if he does improve.
Yeah, currently sitting down in 11th in the Mercedes. Of course, quite a long session. We're only halfway through, still 10 minutes to go. One of the shorter laps here, and actually bails out of this lap, hanging out wide to the another driver on a lap. Go to Dave Selecki, who's improving in the first sector. Losing a bit of time in the middle sector, currently 13th. We've had 14 drivers, as you can see on the left-hand side. Your screen saying a lap time, but Dave running wider into the gravel. This will not be a competitive time for them. Let's head back to Chris Downing, who's on another lap. Now bumped down to 3rd place. This lap not really coming together for them, though, as they head into the final sector. You may have noticed in the top left, mentioned what the weather was. It is very hot, 30 degrees ambient temperature, 48.5 degrees Celsius track temp. That is roasting, and with very little respite for the tires around here, I have to imagine they'll be quite hot and struggling once the drivers have done a few laps, especially through this triple right-hand apex. The left front will be dying, needing a bit of water even, you could say, just to try and cool down. Chris Downing's actually going to practice a pit entry here with lap not exactly coming together. Not too many people on a lap. Someone who is on a lap, though, is Petr Jelnik, who's left a bit later in session to set their first time. As they come across the line, they're still getting up to speed. 2.4 seconds off the top time, but is good enough for 13th place. And how about we just go on board with them for a lap around COTA National.
Yeah, so we ride on board with Petr Jelnik, already gone through that massive incline into turn 1, now through turn 2, into the Maggots and Beckett's inspired section part of the circuit, where we won't make it fully through this section, as we'll have to jump on the brakes now and go through this left-hander into the short little chicane here, which then kind of turns into a little braking zone. Oh, he's lost it though. He's lost the rear end. He's nearly overtaken him, as it Petr Jelnik. Luckily, still gets it turned into the left-hander, and then we jump onto the brakes again, where, as Scotty mentioned earlier, normally a big braking point, not as much because we are on the shorter layout, and now into this kind of Hockenheim-inspired stadium part of the lap. But Petr Jelnik, look, green in the first sector, but they're massively off in the middle sector after that mistake.
Yeah, very costly, but we'll have more laps to get a time in. Still have a few people in the pits. Matt Townsend and Tyler Hammer have just left the pits to set time, and still waiting on a few drivers that'll hopefully get out and get a qualifying time in. But we'll try and see who else is on a lap. Looks like Daniel Lindblom on a lap now, coming down the back straight into the tricky final sector. I believe second split there. It's 4.4 seconds down. Yes, it's Daniel Lindblom has had a moment themselves just before we cut to them, so they will need to try again. Quite a few cars in the pits at the moment. We'll go to Craig Foreman, who's jumping over the short chute, but no first sector time in for them. So it looks like they have invalidated this lap. Let's have a little look where Anton Temenga is. They're on a lap, not improving in the first sector, but you can see jumping over into that sort of little chicane, how threading the needle of the track limits, how tricky it is through that section with these bigger and heavier GT3 cars compared to some of the prototypes on LMU. But it's been a good middle sector, 0.2 quicker than their fastest lap. This could be improvement for Temenga.
Yeah, and that's what they need to stay at the top of these times. So as I mentioned earlier, back to the Hockenheim-inspired stadium part of the circuit. Now through these right-handers inspired by turn 8 at Turkey. Absolutely on the limit through here in the Mustang. Fully on the throttle. Shifts up into 4th gear, but we'll have to brake just before that Aventis sign. Then downshift 2 gears, turn into the left-hander, gets onto the power again, but then we'll have to jump harsh on the brakes again, down to 1st gear, gets the power back on, up towards start-finish line. So purple middle sector, let's see, can Anton Temenga improve their time? Yes, they can, a 1 minute 32.470. It was another, actually no, or did they? No, I'm confusing myself now.
No, they lost a lot of time in the final sector.
Yes. Sorry, I was thrown off by the purple last sector, but sorry, continue.
Yes, LMU Graphics giving us all the right information, as you will see in the race. That's sarcastic, by the way. But yeah, Temenga will head on for another lap. You can see the splitter scraping across the ground. The first sector isn't any worse. It's actually slightly quicker than their previous lap. Will continue following them. As I said, there's not many other people on laps at the moment using all of the track coming onto the back straight, but has not quite been as good as they were last lap, and has decided it is time to return to pit lane. We'll have a look at Craig Foreman, who's not improving on this lap. How about Petr Jelnik? Petr Jelnik is improving, so we'll jump back to them, and let's jump back on board with them as we were earlier.
Yes, so here is Petr, currently green in the first sector and green in the middle sector. So they're setting some personal best over this lap time. So they turn the car in, get back onto the power again as they come up towards the Total Energy bridge, goes straight underneath it, and again, kind of blipping the throttle here, and then back onto the power as they shift up into 4th gear. They'll eventually may get close to 5th. No, they don't. They get just by the Avis board. He downshifts into 3rd gear, right on the very limits of the track limits there, going around the second to last corner, and then has to shift down again into 1st gear. Gets onto the power yet again. So again, green. Can he make it another green sector? He does improve. It's 1 minute 33.5 5.78. So that's put Petr Jelinek up into 6th position. So a pretty respectable time there, just behind Simon Harris, who's 2nd in the AMS class and 5th overall in the standings. Tyler Hammer currently sits now in 6th as well, just slotting in ahead of Petr Jelinek, is just under a second off of the overall fastest time in this session in the Mercedes AMG, and we'll be going for another lap time again. Actually, we'll probably be seeing their first sector anytime soon as they jump over those little orange sausage curbs on the inside, and it is a green, and they're only just shy of 2 tenths back from the best time through that sector as well. So not bad by Tyler Hammer through there, and a green personal best time through there as well. Could see them move up further in the order as we come to near the end of this qualifying session. It's purple in the middle sector, but Matt Townsend also improving. Purple in the first sector, off by 2 tenths overall in the middle sector though, but still a personal best. Townsend currently in 17th and without a time in this session, so I mean it's going to be a pretty barnstorming time if they can hold it together through the remainder of this lap. Only 2 more corners to go, as we've seen. Onto the brakes now, turns the car in. Will they be able to keep it in track limits? So tricky through here as well, and also tricky to keep it in a straight line through there. It does rattle the car a bit if you take too much curb through there, but Matt Townsend doing a perfect job of it so far. So we'll come up towards the start finish line, and it's 4th position, a good time by themselves. Tyler Hammer, can they get close? No, only good enough to get 6th position back from Simon Harris, I believe. Ralph Vest still ahead, and Matt Townsend in 4th position now. So on to the 2nd row of the grid for them, and 3rd row of the grid for Tyler Hammer, as we see Daniel Lindblom currently green in the first sector, was off by a 10th, but off quite a bit in the middle sector, and that was a big shuffle there as well, going through the second to last corner, so I doubt there'll be an improvement there. So now we've got Kieran Tone in currently in 17th position in this session. It was half a second off in the first sector, and all struggling on the brakes into that left-hander there. Has run onto the white of the American flag on the outside of the circuit there, and seems to be struggling through this part of the circuit. The car seems to have a lot of understeer, so we'll come back to Matt Townsend, but they seem to also not be improving, off by 2 seconds in the middle sector. So we come to Brian James Anderson in currently in 13th position, and I'm liking that. I don't know what to call it, but like Jackie Stewart, Scottish kind of fabric. What I can't think of the name of.
Yeah, is it tartan?
Tartan, yes, that's it. I do like the tartan and the little blue on it.
Yeah, I was thinking plaid, but of course that's the Canadian team in IMSA that run that. It's Brian James improving in the first sector, though has bailed out of it in the middle sector. We have very few people on lap times as we head to the end of the session. Matt Townsend is starting one final lap. One driver I want to give a little shout out to here. Simon Harris up in P7. That's a good result for them. We're usually used to seeing them in the bottom half of the grid, but they're only 3/4 of a second off of Temenga's pole time. Good distance, nearly 4 tenths back to Jelinek, Zach Silver, Daniel Lindblom behind them. They're very close together. So yeah, good showing there from Harris. I see Matt Townsend purple in the first sector. It'll be interesting to see, can they keep this form up as they push through the little short chute. Hopefully won't get caught in the traffic in front of them. There are only 3 cars on the track at the moment. Everyone else, if you're new joining us for the series, we are running 2 times fuel usage, 2 times tire wear in the series. So the technical nature of this track, the hot temperatures and double tire wear is will make it very difficult to run too many laps on the tires. And see, Matt Townsend decides to bail down. Daniel Lindblom not improving on their final lap either. So I think this will be our final qualifying order. But the drivers are also limited to 8 tires, and that is 8 individual tires, not 8 tire sets. It is effectively 2 tire sets for qualifying and the race. With the 15-minute race coming up, no fuel saving will be required, but it will be challenging to get the tyres all the way to the end of the race, especially if you've put a good few laps on them in qualifying. That's why I've seen quite a few drivers sit out for a lot of the qualifying session. They don't want to use any more of the tyres than they have done already, and it wouldn't necessarily be beneficial to use any more of the tyres. Daniel Lindblom, I believe, has invalidated this final lap, so we'll be starting P10. So close to getting into the top 8, and oh, that's not going to be good for the tyres as they have a spin, or half spin at least, coming into the penultimate corner. That is certainly going to damage the tyres.
I was going to say, and just before this session as well, in practice, before we started the stream, Lindblom had the same issue, like almost identical incident into that corner as well. So that might be something they need to keep an eye on in the race to make sure they're not making that mistake, because that's going to cost them a considerable amount of time during the race, and yeah, also a considerable amount of positions as well.
Yep, so that is qualifying done and dusted. We're just waiting for the server to take over. While we wait, I want to say welcome to all those in chat. Thank you very much, Ralph Vest, for subscribing for the 50th month in a row. That is a long, long time. Thanks, message said, yeah, I'm fast now. And yeah, you certainly are leading the way in the amateur standings. Hopefully, it can be a good race to help cement that lead. But as we get ready for the race, here is your starting order. Thought Tom was going to take this one away. But Anton Temenga is on pole ahead. James Cowley in second place. Anton looking to make it back-to-back victories. Chris Downing will take P3. Have Matt Townsend, who took a late jump up to P4. Ralph Est leading in the AMS is taking P5, ahead of Tyler Hammer in P6. Simon Harris, great result for them. Hopefully they can hold on to it through the race, starting from P7. Peter Yelnik will take P8. Zach Silver is up in P9. And Daniel Lindblom's late spin in qualifying. Hopefully that hasn't ruined their tyres too much, and they can hold on to a top 10. Craig Foreman will be starting in P11, have Dmitry Yaroshenko in 12th. Brian James Anderson is in 13th, have Runner Betolson in 14th, who be hoping to improve to try and challenge for the AM title. Tom Watson will be starting in 15th, with Dave Sleckie in 16th, and Kieran Toole will be the last of our drivers running today in 17th. Our drivers should be forming up on the grid now. We can see them there, and in just a moment they will be rolling for the short formation lap as we do. Thank you, Jacob Jack, for subscribing for the 3rd month in a row. Great to have your support once again. Hope you've been enjoying this season of racing, and hopefully we can bring you a great race tonight. From pole position, Anton Temenga winning last time race with a good strategy. Can they hold on to the track position and take it home to make it back-to-back wins? Or will James Cowley return to where they finished every race except the last and take the top spot? Only time will tell. It's just over a corner to go before we get the green flag for tonight's race. Seems like Tom is having a couple of issues. So as the drivers round out of the final corner, we get the green flag and the drivers are away then. We're heading up towards T1. Temenga holding the inside is a very poor start for James Cowley. He's already dropped to the pack 3 wide into turn 1. Ralph Vest on the inside. Matt Townsend on the outside cuts across Cowley's nose, trying to look to the outside. Peter Yelnik is only shown the runoff and will not have a great run. Ralph Vest, though, drops behind James Cowley, who holds on to 4th place. Still a very disappointing start for them. Into the S's now. Drivers singling out into single file, and looks like everyone has survived. Simon Harris, so dropping to the back of the field, which will not a big shame as they were up into P7, so they've had a moment through T1. Drivers fighting through the first sectors. Let's look back up to the front. It's James Cowley already starting to try and put some pressure back on Townsend. A little further back, Zach Silver has also had a poor start, dropping down to 14th place, having qualified in the top 10. So maybe they and Simon Harris came together. We will try and maybe get a replay of that. But as they head now through the triple right-hander on the inside, Tom Watson trying to hold on to 13th place, but Zach Silver getting a cut back, will be on the outside into penultimate corner. He's going to try and send it the long way round. Runs a little bit wide, and Tom Watson is going to try and come back as we have multiple drivers jumping into the pit lane to serve drive-through penalties, it seems like, from starting procedure. But on the outside of the final turn, Zach Silver able to get that move done up into P12 now. So we have 3 drivers, Batolfson, Simon Harris and Kieran Toll in the pits. And now trying to go for a move. That is Dave Selecki up the inside of Tom Watson, and will pick up 13th place into T1. Let's try and have a little look at Simon Harris, who's making their way through the pits with that penalty, and try and find out what happened to them. So it looks like, yes, they were well back already. Same with Zach Silver. So some issues, actually, Matt in chat saying that Simon's pedals weren't working. So very unfortunate for them, also picking up a penalty from that. But yeah, we return to the racing action, as meanwhile at the front, Anton Temenga has dropped down to P4. Maybe a mistake from them. Let's see if we can try and find out what happened to them. So, this point...
It looks like it's already happened at this point, whatever's happened. They've already dropped back now into turn 1. Again, it looks like they've already lost the position at this point as they go around the first couple of corners. And again, it seems to be they're struggling for pace coming into the second to last corner as one of the Lambos comes past. Here we go. So going through this long right-hand section of the circuit, comes into the braking zone. Is it just too much curb, or is either rear end, he's lost grip at the rear end there, but the rear end's tried to overtake him, and 3 positions then down in the space of 1 corner. So yeah, not great for Anton Temenga. Was going for back-to-back victories in this series, but I'm afraid it doesn't. It's going to be a little bit trickier now, at least. But we did see it wasn't last time out. It wasn't really on pure pace that they took overall victory. It was just the right strategic call. So Anton Temenga by far is not out of this one. Still right tucked in behind James Cowley, and it's nice to have Downing and Townsend also running near the front of the field as well. Some different names at the front of the field, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how James Cowley deals with this all as well. Has won 3 of the 4 rounds so far this season, has podiumed at every single one of them, but at the moment, considering it's a 4-car battle for the lead, that streak of podiums that every venue we've gone to could be at risk as we come to Zach Silver, who's fighting with James Anderson. They're going to try and do the little switchback, and they're going to squeeze down the inside, but that's going to turn into the outside now as the BMW tries to cover the Lamborghini off. The Lamborghini tries to perform some sort of switchback, so they have the inside for the penultimate corner. But then Lamborghini's there, Silver's down the inside, and Silver's got the move done. Very nicely done by Silver there. Some calculated driving, knew where the BMW was going to end up coming out of the second to last corner, and positioned his car so he could go straight up the inside. Very nicely planned out by Zach Silver to move up into 11th position in this race. Next car to try and catch is Craig Foreman, who's just up the road, just going through turn 1, is actually right on the back of this battle for 7th position, with Tyler Hammer leading this little gaggle of cars through, with Daniel Lindblom just up behind as well. Hammer actually down 1 position from where they started this race, down to 7th. Lindblom is one of the movers in the field, up 2 positions, with Yaroshenko up 3 behind, and Yaroshenko actually our biggest mover in the race, and it doesn't look like they're aiming to have that movement stopped, because they're trying to have a little looks here at Lindblom, but kind of in the part of the circuit that doesn't really welcome too much overtaking. So as we ride on board now, but Lindblom getting a little bit tail happy in that Porsche. We know what that GT3 is like. It can be a little bit of a rally car sometimes, more of a drift car than a GT, but has managed to stay ahead after that brief little kind of sideways moment coming into the left-hand stadium section part of the circuit. Now as we now come towards the end of the lap, we've seen Lindblom struggle a little bit around this part of the circuit, but seems to have done okay. Yaroshchenko's closed up ever so slightly onto the back of the Porsche and is taking an alternate line, a little bit of a snap of understeer at the front end there as well for the Porsche driver, so it is bringing the Ferrari into contention as they head up towards turn 1. They start their incline, but it's not going to be close enough yet for the Ferrari to think about a move. The Porsche defends to the inside, which does slow it on exit, which actually has caused Dmitry Yaroshchenko to have to check up as they start their descent down the circuit, and it seems that the Ferrari is just going to be tucked in behind for now. It's as Anton Semenga, no, Matt Townsend, too much curb going into the chicane section. You saw him there, all 4 wheels off the ground, I think, for a bit there. And the car landed facing in the wrong direction. That's going to drop him out of podium contention. He's going to really try and squeeze James Cowley to the inside of the corner. Cowley's still there, trying to stick that Lamborghini around the outside, but Matt Townsend aware of it and just about holds on to 3rd position. I don't know how he's kept that car on the circuit, completely facing the wrong direction when he landed all 4 wheels back on the ground, but was able to basically pull the car to the left-hand side of the circuit and keep it facing in the right direction. But a big mistake there for Matt Townsend, and we're going to go back to replay to look at it.
Yeah, on board through the chicane, just I guess hits the curb on the left hand side is what unsells it, going over the bump. It is quite a nasty bump as you try and thread the needle between the 2 curbs not to pick up a track limit point, and then at that point had James Cowley on the inside who was trying to take 3rd position, but Matt Townsend was not going to lose 2 places from that one mistake. That puts Semenga back up in 2nd place, who, while we were watching the battles a little further down, got past Cowley and up into 3rd place at the time. Now takes 2nd place and will try and chase down Chris Downing, who now leads the field into the S's as we are on lap I haven't been counting into the national part now. But yeah, this top 4 is still quite close. As look at that, you could see the car just getting unsettled over the jumps, and that's given Semenga a really good run here. As Semenga go for a lunge, is thinking about Chris Downing, covers it off at the last possible moment. But this is going to bring Matt Townsend back in. I was going to say James Cowley, but Cowley has had a moment of their own over that section, fallen down to P9 now.
Yeah, that's big for James Cowley. As I mentioned before, has had a podium at every venue so far this season, a worst finish of 2nd place, and it seems like COTA, the bumps of the circuit, have struck the Lamborghini driver. As we see, I think it's going to be a similar story to Matt Townsend. It's going to take a little bit too much of this left-hand curb, maybe? No, just seems offline, takes a little bit too much of the right-hand curb. That unsettles the car, and he does a full 90-degree turn into the corner. Is straight, as he's spinning, he's getting the car into 1st gear, and oh my goodness, an interesting rejoin, but picked the gap to the perfect time there to rejoin the circuit, did James Cowley, and didn't get collected in the end, but has dropped all the way down to 10th position, is under pressure as well from Zach Silver, who's tucked right in behind his sister Lamborghini Huracan. And, well, will Cowley be under pressure into turn 1? Silver's going to look at the inside, but don't think they're close enough, and Cowley's outbroke the fellow Lamborghini to ensure that he stays ahead, but not good news for James Cowley. Down 8 positions now from where they started this race, and, well, yeah, not ideal for our championship leader.
Far from ideal indeed. Of course, they do have the drop round, which will save them. They'll pick up the 2nd place they got last time out, but technically does break their full streak of victories. They'll mistake their 4 from the BMW of Craig Foreman through that section, allows James Cowley to get to the inside and back up to P9. Bit of a recovery drive here, but of course that spin will have damaged the tyres and will make the race that ever bit more difficult from here on out. And of course, you got to remember, the drivers having used some of their tyres in qualifying, at least one set, if not both sets, how used are the tyres? Are they looking at 5 or 10% wear than some of the other drivers around them? That can make a key difference in this race, especially as the tyres fall down to a more worn state.
And it's worth mentioning as well, now in that mid-pack part of the field, a lot more bunched up and a lot more cars there, so it could easily be involved in more incidences or any more contact as well, which could unravel Cowley's race even further. So that's the thing, he's got to be a little bit cautious that it doesn't fall apart even more now, and just be a little bit patient with some of the overtakes that he does attempt to do in this one. But anyway, we'll come up to the battle for P6. Still Tyler Hammer leading this train of cars, kind of the cork in the bottle of these guys, as Daniel Lindblom is trying to pop that as he's going to try and move past it up into 6th position, but it's right on the curbs there, really pushing the Porsche for this section of the second, pushing a little bit too much, actually runs across into the gravel there, and that's allowed Dmitry Yaroshenko to slip up the inside as they go through that little chicane section of the circuit as they come back onto the main track. And yeah, pushing a little bit too hard there did Daniel Lindblom. We've seen them struggling a little bit for rear end grip, and I think that was another occasion where the back end of the car just overtook the front, and now it does mean they're under a lot of pressure from a very angry James Cowley, who's going to have a look up the inside, is alongside, is going to make a little bit of contact. That gets both of them a little bit squirrely coming out of that part, but as they come towards the right-handers, it is James Cowley that moves ahead, and sadly for Daniel Lindblom, after pressuring for P6, they now actually find themselves all the way down in P9, and James Cowley still on the charge. He wants 2 cars in the space of 1 lap. I don't think he's going to get Dmitry Yaroshenko by the end of this lap, but potentially into turn 1, depending on what they do. Actually may get them up here. No, you could see that Dmitry run a little bit wide there, and that's allowed the Lamborghini straight back into this battle. It's going to be a look to the inside from James Cowley. Dmitry Yaroshenko doesn't seem to be battling it too much. He knows the Lamborghini's a little bit quicker and has let them through. And actually in the background as well, Daniel Lindblom, it gets even worse. Zach Silver moves up into P9. Lindblom now down to P10. So yeah, really, it just shows how one mistake can really unravel your race in this midfield, because he's lost an absolute handful of positions. Was up in 7th, and Cowley's off. Cowley off to the inside of the circuit. He's lost it in that little S's part of the circuit. You just saw, I'm sure it was him. Yeah, it is him. As you can see, he's somehow recovered the car very quickly, but you saw a big cloud of dirt and ash as he spun off to the right-hand side of the circuit. So it's to get the corner names correctly, just coming up towards turns 3 and 4, I believe. And as you can see, he's following Tyler Hammer, takes one bit of the curb, takes the second curb, hits that orange sausage curb, hits the second orange sausage curb, and he's really been fighting the car since turn 3, and bang into that Goodyear advertising board as he spins off. Luckily, it spun him back into the right direction, and he rejoins the circuit only, well, it's only lost out at least 3 positions, I think, in the end there, but is going to be suffering with a little bit of damage as we rejoin the action. Actually, and you can see as well, the car really twitching around there, and it's a DNF for Simon Harris as well, so they've had some sort of off. We did see the yellow flags, but this is the fight for the race lead. We have Chris Downing going for the outside on Anton Semenga. Semenga's broke really early, and that's the McLaren tries to outbrake them, but it's run too wide, and it's actually allowed Matt Townsend into this battle as well. So Townsend trying to go around the outside of the McLaren squeezes him as they go into this S's part of the circuit. The BMW is still there, but the McLaren holds on to 2nd position, and somehow Matt Townsend stays in 3rd, and Semenga is still in the lead of this race. There is the DNF'd, I think, Simon Harris car off of the circuit there. Well, at least it's one of the BMWs. Might be parking in the pit lane. So actually, I think it is parking though. That might have just been a respawn. But anyway, as we see these guys still battling on, it seems the McLaren's falling back and is under a little bit more pressure from Matt Townsend compared to putting the pressure on the race leader as they come through this stadium part of the circuit. And as they now exit this part of the circuit, it seems like, yeah, the McLaren is the one that's under a little bit more pressure than the race leader.
Yeah, let's go back to a replay 1 lap ago to see how Semenga started this move, as we cut to after Downing had already got back in front, and Chris Downing was trying to re-overtake to retake the lead. Ambitious move around the outside, eventually didn't pay off. into the fast left-hander, which has got a few drivers out. Chris Downing was wide there, wide of the apex, and looks like Temenge just has more grip at this stage and was able to make the move 8 to the inside of the final corner, and then gets the traction on the exit. And that was how he got the lead. Chris Downing got back into slipstream, tried to come back as Temenge covered the inside. So Chris Downing, no choice to go to the outside. Very ambitious under braking, runs in very deep. And yeah, wouldn't be able to hold on to that position. And nearly opened the door for Matt Townsend to get through. We still have a car sitting. I believe that is Kieran Toll. Who's just sitting on the outside. Hopefully they can clear themselves relatively soon. But let's have a little look back into this pack. Zach Silver in P7, ahead of Yaroshenko in 8th, and Lindblom in 9th. Craig Foreman 10th, and Kylie down to 11th again after that second spin. Coming through the S's this time, did hit the wall, so hopefully for them they don't have too much damage. And I'm actually curious, I think we can try and go on board to see if there's any steering damage. And that steering wheel to me doesn't look quite straight between the left-hander and the right-hander there. The car looking very twitchy.
Yeah, it's not looking comfortable to drive. He's somehow got himself, I think, back ahead, I think, of the BMW that's currently up behind of James Anderson. But you can see, yeah, just I mean, when we cut to them a couple of laps ago, this section of the circuit right now, it seems very uncomfortable for Callie. As you can see, the steering wheel isn't even facing right when he's going around that right-hander. So that's just kind of shows how kind of broken the steering is, leaning to the left-hand side as he goes around some of these corners, which is obviously going to be quite uncomfortable for James Cowley. You can see having to try and fight the car to stay in a straight line as he heads down the straight, and that's putting him under major pressure from James Anderson, who's going to now have a look up the inside. You can see it's almost set up like a NASCAR for an oval circuit. You can see the front, you can see the back end kind of looking to overtake the front as he comes down the main straight. But yeah, that's for James Cowley, that is not a comfortable car to drive. You've got to question, is it worth bringing the car into the pit lane, because he seems to be really struggling for pace.
But the question is, how long is the repair time? They're notoriously long in LMU. I would maybe give that about a minute, which is 2/3 of a lap round here, with seeing lap times just over 90 seconds. And obviously want to leave the pit stop, wait it out till you're confident you can make it to the end of the race. You know, don't want to have to pit now and then make a splash and dash later on. That will probably cost you more time than just staying out an extra few laps here. Of course, with how technical this circuit is, you don't have to go right up to the 25-minute mark. Kylie could probably get away with more 27, 28 minutes remaining. Depends how much if he wants to fuel save a little bit to pit a lap or two earlier. But it's actually starting to come back at Brian James Anderson. I was looking to the inside of the long multi-apex right-hander, but it's going to be difficult to make a move with just how twitchy the car seems. I mean, one of the things when you damage suspension on LMU, the sort of the alignment of the wheel can be a bit inconsistent, like the wheel's moving around with the damage and you have to keep readjusting. You know, one corner it can feel like, oh yeah, it's all right, next corner then it can be giving you a lot more trouble than the previous. And so it's very difficult just then. Very easy to have the car snap around, didn't you? Speaking of having cars snap around, Brian James Anderson going for a little donut on the exit of T1 right in front of Kylie.
Yeah, Cowley making a little bit of contact there as well. Hopefully, well, I doubt it seems only minor, so I doubt it would be too much more issues for that Lamborghini. But as you can see, here's Anderson now making their way onto the start-finish straight, and it's going to be a while before we see him get to the braking zone. But obviously, there's Cowley running up behind. They'll, in a second, jump onto the brakes, turns the car in, and runs a little bit wide. Obviously, wants to get on the power to negate the running wide, but that actually causes the rear end to spin up and overtake him and into Cowley's path. Luckily, he's able to get the car back around facing the right direction again pretty quickish, and has only dropped down to 13th position in this race. But I think actually that might be enough to drop them out of the AMS podium positions, because Watson now third in that, Foreman into second, and currently still Ralph Vest leading the way in the amateur classifications as we come to Downing. What's happened here?
Downing has had a moment that we have unfortunately missed. I'm going to try and find it here. Need to go back even further. But yeah, this is going back a couple of laps ago now. We'll just play this through until it happens. I don't know what to expect here, but Chris Downing has fallen down to third position. Can see Townsend just in behind, coming into penultimate corner. A lot of curb for both of the drivers. A little bit quick, more speed carried by the BMW. Maybe they're a little bit more confident. Maybe the tyres in better shape at the moment. Through the final corner, Townsend is going to get into the slipstream. Doesn't appear to be closing too much. The McLaren has good straight line speed, it seems. Then under braking for T1, Matt Townsend is just going to send it up into the inside. Is carrying way too much speed, but Chris Downing, trying to get the cutback, jumps over the anti-cut curb on the inside, ruining their momentum, and that allows Matt Townsend to hold on to P2. That was a couple of laps ago now. Matt Townsend getting up into second place, and we'll be trying to follow Temenga. We have a car off at T1. It's Dave Selecki. I wonder if he did something a little similar to what we've seen from Brian James Anderson. We'll get a quick replay here. Dave coming up towards the first corner. Down the up the start finish straight into the braking zone, angles the car to the apex just as they hit the brakes, gets the car turned in, and then yeah, just loses traction as they try and put the throttle down, makes it all the way to the wall. Bit of a clatter on the front right tire. Hopefully that hasn't damaged the suspension too much. But they do get going once again. Dave struggling quite a bit this race. Has dropped down to 15th position. Behind some of our drivers that had drive-throughs at the start as well.
Yeah, no, really not going their way at the moment. James Cowley actually has decided to come into the pits now as well, as you can see, down to 14th position in this race. As we see Daniel Lindblom is on the back of this queue still. He's currently 9th position, just behind Yaroshenko, obviously up a position after Cowley's excursion off of the circuit earlier, so back within the top 10 as he's onto the rear end of the Ferrari driver, with Silva leading this queue of cars. Actually, I think Silva's actually jumped Yaroshenko, as you'll remember he was behind Lindblom at one stage as well. And this is all quite good for Tyler Hammer, because these guys also fighting puts a little bit of pressure off of him. As you can see, there is a little bit of a gap opened up between himself and this little pack of cars. He's certainly not the driver with the most pressure on them, as Zach Silva decides to come in to serve their pit stop with just over 26 minutes now to go in this race. And Lindblom again a little bit twitchy at the front end. The car really not wanting to grip up, but has got it facing in the right direction as we ride on board, and we start our incline up towards turn one. There's the cardboard looking American flag to the right hand side of the circuit as we now start our descent down the circuit towards the Ferrari. Yaroshenko slightly getting away in this battle as we come through the S's part of the circuit now into the left-hander. We start our skip across the circuit to get to then rejoin at the end of the back straight. And again, he's not really too close. There's not really too well. He's not in proximity to overtake at the moment. He can apply a little bit of pressure to Yaroshenko, but it just seems Yaroshenko, at least over this lap, has the legs on the Porsche driver, and actually I think will firmly want to be catching Tyler Hammer. They'll probably feel like they have the pace. Now they've dispatched, well, the Lamborghini has moved away ahead of them. It means that they have some clear air to push on to get a bit closer to that Mercedes, and it does seem like it has given the Ferrari a little bit more legs, or at least on this lap. They have run a little bit wide around this right hand, as you can see, and actually that's going to cost Yaroshenko a little bit of time, bring them a little bit closer to Daniel Lindblom. But it's not, just kind of a bit no man's land there at the moment. No one really within overtaking opportunity of one another. As Zach Silva has just come out of the pit lane, as we've lost Dave Shalecki from this race.
Yeah, we have lost Dave, unfortunately. Second of our 2 retirements so far, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we got another one with just how difficult this circuit is. It may have quite a bit of runoff, but as we've seen on multiple occasions already, it's not too much. You can't get away with pushing too hard, and the bumps making it easy to have a mistake, have a moment. Watching Zach Silver, who is on their out lap, having been sort of the first car to dive for the pits. We've now got Yaroshenko heading into the pits for their stop. As we have just passed the halfway mark, but Zach Silver going for the undercut here, trying to get the new tyres on a little bit earlier, and yeah, we'll try and use them to maybe jump up a couple of positions. They might have to do it on track as they bring the tyres up to temperature. They'll be losing a little bit of time now, but they'll have the extra grip when everyone else comes to the pits and is dealing with the cold tyres themselves. But I imagine things just spreading out a little bit as everyone is starting to sort of focus on the tyre strategies and also the fuel strategies. We've just had someone make a little error. Go turn find. I think it might have been James Kiley having a little error. We'll go to a quick replay here.
I mean, it would be a nightmare if he has made another mistake, as we've seen. This would be their third one, and again, it's just a little bit of a silly one. Maybe a lack of focus there, just spun the rears up coming out of the corner and just sent the car into a little half spin, and Cowley's rejoined the circuit. So really a nightmare day for usually such a consistent driver. As we mentioned, has won 3 rounds this season, second last time out, but today it doesn't even look like they're going to finish inside the top 10 of the field. Cowley currently down in 14th now, and well, it's going to need some luck on their side to try and move up the order, as it's really not going their way today here in Texas. As we come to Dmitry Yaroshenko in 11th position now, has come in to serve their pit stop, I believe, as yes, has got ahead of Zach Silver as well on their pit stop as well. So obviously he's tried to swing a little bit different to Silver and has taken that track position. They've also, both of them, going to be passing James Anderson, who's come into the pit lane as Anton Smenga comes around. Hasn't yet served their stop in the pit lane, so is on the back of lapping these guys. Daniel Lindblom as well, I think we're still waiting to see come in. Actually, no, not. It's got out ahead of Yaroshenko. I beg my own pardon. Sorry.
Yeah, let's go on board, because of course Yaroshenko will have some temperature in their tyres. Daniel Lindblom is going to be on the cool tyres, of course. With the warm temperatures, will make it a bit easier to get heat into the tyres, but still will take a little bit of time. So we're just going to see how much they close on. We've got some more drivers pitting. Chris Downing, first of the lead pack to pit, and Ralph Vest from the lead in AMS class pitting as well. So you can see just how far into the race some of these drivers are going. You know, we're well over the halfway mark now, 4 minutes beyond, in fact, and we've still got more than half of the field still to make their pit stop. I would try and give you the sort of virtual energy numbers that we have previously in season, but thanks to the latest LMU update breaking their overlay package, unfortunately we do not have that data. And so we're sort of in the dark into what the drivers are doing exactly for their strategies, what pit stop times they have as well. That's always been very useful data into trying to decipher what strategies are at play, what differences there are between one driver to another. So yeah, we're just playing it by what you can see on your screen now, basically, as Daniel Lindblom very deep into T1. That's going to allow Yaroshenko to close up quite a bit, but it's obviously still struggling on those colder tyres.
Yeah, and this is what we've seen before, and actually, obviously the other way around is Daniel Lindblom was the chaser, now the one being chased by Yaroshenko, and that Porsche hasn't really seen settled all day. Is Ralph Vest dropping quite far down the order, now into 10th position. That's quite strange, because obviously they were nearer the pointier end of the field and were leading in the amateur standings. I think Vest, now looking through the order, is, well, currently actually I think Watson still needs to stop, and Foreman into the pit lane. But I think as it stands, it's Watson second and Foreman currently. Oh, actually, no, Foreman dropping down the order. So, oh no, where's Foreman got? No, fifth. So that's Craig Foreman, I think, currently leads in the AMS and Watson second. But obviously, both of them in the pit lane. So that's subject to change as this session goes on. As there's Craig Foreman on their pit stop stall now. And actually, we'll see if Routevest reclaims that once these guys leave the pit lane. So as we see, Chris Downing is currently in fourth, has jumped some cars under the pit window, but still has Temenga and Townsend ahead of them. So that's actually in quite far ahead of them as it currently stands. So that's not going to be very beneficial in terms of their battle for the lead in the races. There we go, Craig Foreman leaving the pit lane in 8th position. Vest has got past though, so Vest actually back into the lead of the amateur class. Craig Foreman will be in second with Tom Watson currently in 11th in that class, but has really closed up that class ever so slightly. And as we'll see if Foreman or Watson are able to close in on the AMS leader of Routevest, but it's going to be a tall order. And the good news is for Routevest as well, Chai Morgan, who's currently leading in that championship after who has also taken 2 wins in that class, is not here today as well. So that's going to close things up in the amateur class heading into the final round 6 at Spa next week. So yeah, a lot playing out here in front of us at the moment as we have one of our final stoppers coming in, Tyler Hammer, making their pit stop with about 17 minutes now and 35 minutes of the race to go. I mean, 35 seconds of the race to go.
Yeah, making it 32 minutes into the race, which is quite impressive. Car goes up onto the jacks to have the tires be changed. So near the end of the pit stop. But imagine one of the reasons why we have such large gaps between those after the pit stop sequence. Of course, we're used to a bit of fuel saving required to make it to the end of the race on a one-stop strategy, but with COTA being so technical and having so few straights on this national layout, fuel saving isn't just not necessary, but you know, we've seen how far Tyler Hammer here has gone into the race by obviously doing some fuel saving. You know, they will only need 60% of fuel to make it to the end of the race, as that is Yaroshenko going slowly. I wonder if something has happened to them.
Yeah, moving very slowly indeed. Well, let's have a look back to see what's happened to Yaroshenko. So actually looks a bit far, even on this replay, it has fallen off the back of Daniel Lindblom, and doesn't seem to be putting them under as much pressure as they have been in the earlier parts of this pit window as we come into turn 1. There's Tyler Hammer just behind coming out the pit lane. And is it another spin out of turn 1? No, it's not. Just see, and oh no, they're going to the right hander, and then I actually haven't got sound. So is there is there any input at this point?
Well, stuck in first gear, it seems like up to second.
There's some sort of shifting issue then.
Potentially. Let's try and wind this back. So I did T1. Yeah, it looks like they just go to upshift, but from first gear to T1, and the car just doesn't shift. And then eventually they do get it working again. So a temporary issue, unfortunately for Yaroshenko, has dropped them back behind Tyler Hammer. They're continuing on fine now, but yeah, that's very unfortunate for the Ferrari driver, losing them a place, and you know, maybe potentially another one if they would be able to have put some pressure on Daniel Lindblom. And that now promotes Daniel Lindblom up to 5th position. They've had a good pit cycle here. They were down in 9th place when they came into the pits, and now find themselves in the top 5.
Yeah, and it seemed to be struggling for grip all day. But yeah, as you say, he's got themselves in a great track position here. Not that far back from Petty Jelinek either, who's you could just see in your camera just before he went into the left-hander. There he is now, literally just up the road. So still there's still cause for gain here for Daniel Lindblom. He can still definitely catch this Aston Martin driver as well. So the good day isn't necessarily over yet. He just needs to push on and see if he can get any closer to Petr Jelinek. But I mean, we know how quick Jelinek has been. He's a constant Sunday League enterer. So it's going to be a tricky one to catch up with. Ralph Vest at the end of the cycle has dropped down the order a lot. Is into 9th place. I think was within the top 5. Actually, yeah, no, I know for a fact he was within the top 5 before the pit cycle. Now finds himself in 9th, but still, luckily enough for them, is leading in terms of the amateur class. James Cowley still down in 14th position after their many issues in this race, as well, it's been far from ideal. I mean, you want to be as perfect as you can over a season. You want to be really consistent, but you are at some point just going to have an absolute howler of a round, and I think this is sadly what's happening for James Cowley here today. This is just their kind of bogey round, and it's just not really going their way, but we'll have to see if they can catch up to Tom Watson over the remainder of this race. Has 13 minutes and 30 seconds now to go to push on to try and close in, but as you can see, they're currently making his way around the second to last corner. The next car on circuit already going through turn 1, so a pretty substantial task to try and catch up to the car ahead with, well, only 13 minutes now to go on the clock for this session. So yeah, a bit of a shame, and actually even more of a shame. This is going to be really, this is, well, it's not even rubbing salt in the wounds, it's getting the whole jar and tipping it in. It's Anton Temenga could potentially be on course to lap Cowley in this race, and we'll have to see if Temenga does have the pace to be able to do that. But if, to be fair play to Temenga, it's not really even been down to strategy today. It's just been pure pace. They've lost out on positions for a little mistake earlier on, but has just stayed calm, has kept cool heads, and has really pushed on, and has made the moves work and got themselves up into a pretty dominant lead in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Reason why I initially switched to Kylie is, I must admit, I seen a yellow flag car off the track on the mini-map, and I thought, is it Kylie? No, it wasn't Kylie, thankfully. Not another mistake for them, but cut to Brian James Anderson, who I think has just been overtaken by Craig Foreman. Let's try and get a replay of this if we can. But yeah, we can see Craig just behind Brian into this tricky left-hander, very tight understeer from the tarted liveried BMW. A little bit of gravel too on the exit for good measure. It seems like they're struggling with their tyres. Look at the understeer. Look again, just washing out wide. And the Brazil liveried WRT BMW easily making the way through and up into the top 10 for Craig Foreman. And now coming under pressure from Runar Butolfsson is the BMW driver as they come towards the final sector. Look to the inside for the Mercedes. Butolfsson trying to commit to the move, squeezed onto the apex and trying to pick up the throttle on the exit. Goes for a little pirouette and will drop down to 13th place as Tom Watson makes their way through in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and actually, I forgot about Runar Butolfsson. So actually now that puts Tom Watson up into 3rd in the amateur class as well. So that little mistake has cost them an AMS podium for Runar Butolfsson. We'll ride on board with Runar, as you can see, up behind Anderson as it does they make their way through the little cut through and back onto the main part of the circuit. You can see gets on the power, takes a little bit of a tighter line, runs it a little bit wider, and obviously feels like they have the pace. Switches to the inside late, and the BMW, I think, kind of realizes he's there, gives him the room, but just, yeah, a little bit too much curb, and it's enough to spin the car around as they try to go on the power. And there's obviously wasn't any grip there for poor Runar Butolfsson, who now drops down to 13th position overall in this race. Still up 1 position from where they started in this one, though, as Petr Jelinek seems to be under a little bit of pressure from some cars behind now. Actually, no, but I think that's Toll's BMW. I could be mistaken. Yeah, no, it is. It's Kieran Toll in that BMW. So it's obviously lapped that car. We saw it with some issues, parked for 2 laps, so maybe potential sim issues for them, and had to do a little bit of a quick fix, but has got themselves back going. And will be trying to move out the way now of Daniel Lindblom, who's going to sneak up the inside to lap the BMW driver as there you go, the Iron Dames liveried Porsche goes through and now can reset their focus onto trying to overtake Petr for an overall 4th position in this race as well. Very impressive result for whoever's able to get up there. Tyler Hammer tries to lap the BMW as well. Eventually, looks like they're going to after running wide at the final corner. They'll run side by side onto the start-finish straight, and the Mercedes will slot into the front, sweeps across the nose of the BMW, and well, should have lapped it. Is the BMW can have a look? I thought for a brief second it was going to have a look up the inside, but no, Tyler Hammer has held on to the position and now can actually refocus in on actually trying to catch Daniel Lindblom, who's actually a little bit closer to the Mercedes than he is to the Aston Martin, which isn't good news for the person in the Iron Dames car. So let's see if Tyler Hammer can close this gap down and, well, get past the Porsche.
I wonder if Lindblom is having to do any energy saving in the Porsche. Maybe that's just helping Tyler Hammer close up. Maybe Petr too in the Aston in front, but Hammer that we're on board with in P6 can see the 2 cars in front for position. Less than 8.5 minutes to go for the Mercedes driver to try and pick up those positions into the tight left-hander now, closing in on the Porsche. How much more tire does Tyler potentially have, helping them close in through this long right-hander? You can see the Porsche moving around a little bit, balancing the throttle is Tyler through the long right-hander now into left-hander. Bit more apex there as the Porsche hanging it off of the curb on the outside into the final corner. Slightly later apex for Tyler Hammer, trying to get the momentum, and does seem to have a good run here on the straight. The Porsche moving over to defend already. Mercedes not biting for the inside, will look to the outside into T1. Such a tight line for the Porsche. You have to imagine will be so compromised on the exit. Look at that. Tyler Hammer is now right under the rear wing of the Porsche driver as they come towards the S's. Porsche driver has to make sure Lindblom doesn't make a mistake through here. We know how easy it is with the bumps. But of course, Tyler Hammer following will have to avoid making a mistake too. They'll be a tighter line through left-hander for the Mercedes driver. Out onto the straight is Tyler, close enough for a dive, not quite into the tight left-hander, turn 12 normally of the full circuit. Into the technical third sector. There is a bit of an overtaking opportunity coming up with the tightening left-hander. Will Tyler send the Mercedes down the inside they're thinking about, but Lindblom closes the door off. As a little further back, actually, we have Zach Silver, who has muscled their way past one of the drivers, I believe, and Ralph Vest is now right behind, who's fighting with Yaroshenko. So we've got 2 battles all happening here. Lindblom still holding on for P5 and Ralph Vest in P8.
Yeah, I think luckily for Ralph Vest, I don't think anyone who's close at the moment can fight them for position. Foreman, the closest car, and luckily Silver in a different class as well, and Yaroshenko in a different class, but still worth having the battle for the overall positions. It's always nice to have the bragging rights for finishing ahead of another driver. So as they head up towards turn 1 for the however many time it's been in this race, actually still too much curb taken by the Corvette. Bang, bang, bang between the pair of them. Somehow the Corvette didn't get spun around in that. Some big hefty hits to the rear left-hand side of that Apex Driving School Corvette, but still facing in the right direction. Yaroshenko still trying to find a way through this S's section. That would be a brave move if they went for it through there, but has obviously, well, there wasn't a gap, so they obviously didn't go for it in the end. We'll come back to the battle for 5th position. There's Petr, and then coming up behind are these 2 fighting guys in the Porsche and the Mercedes. The 33 car up against the 85. It's going to be a look to the outside, then on to take the tighter apex does the Mercedes as they now go up towards these right-handers. Again, it's a different line taken by the pair of them. It's going to push the Porsche out wide on the exit of this corner and give the Mercedes maybe some, actually no, some the opposite wide forward. The Mercedes going a little bit wider, and that line taken by the Porsche has extended the gap a little bit, but the Mercedes closes it right back up again into the penultimate corner. So now, as they make their way onto the start-finish straight, again, not many more opportunities for Tyler Hammer. 4 minutes and 33 seconds to go on our timing screen as Ralph Vest is losing the Ferrari behind now, so won't have to worry about that too much. Just has to focus on the Lamborghini ahead to try and secure an overall 7th place finish for the Corvette as they head into turn 1. Isn't close enough to try and get that move done yet, though. So as they get back onto power and head down the hill, these guys should stay in order unless pending a mistake in the following couple of corners. We drop below 4 minutes now to go in this race. It's been a pretty action-packed field one so far, so hoping for a stellar finish as we make our way through the cut-through, bouncing, hopping over the curbs like rabbits, and now back onto the main circuit. And we'll come back to this fight between Daniel Lindblom and the Mercedes of Tyler... Oh no, Daniel Lindblom, I mean, and the Mercedes of Tyler Hammer. And Hammer looking to the outside into this section of the circuit again, but it doesn't look like they're going to get the move done. It's going to have a little cheeky look up the inside, but just can't get the nose alongside. They're going to try and have a look around the outside, but again, it just doesn't look like at the moment there's anything Tyler Hammer can do to get past that Porsche as things currently stand. They'll go into the second to last corner, and the a little bit of a wider line taken by the Lamborghini. That's going to scrub off some of its pace through that part of the circuit. But again, Tyler Hammer trying to get a tighter apex at the later part of the corner to try and set themselves up for a bare run onto the start-finish straight to try and force a move into turn 1. Is this going to be it for Tyler Hammer? He's really in the nose of the Porsche, looks to the inside, decides against it, it's gone to the outside, the Porsche's defended to the inside, that's going to push the Porsche wide, it's going to give a little bit of room for the Mercedes to have a look around the outside into turn 2. He's not going to be close enough though to stay alongside, so Tyler Hammer still is going to have to settle to stay behind the Porsche, but these two are really close to one another now.
Just checking in on the battle for 8th. Ralph Vest still has that bit of a gap to Yaroshenko behind, still not quite close enough to the driver in front. So we'll cut back to the battle for 5th. Has Tyler got a run, is thinking about a move, but couldn't quite get the nose down the inside. It would have been risky, but you can see the pressure as well. And True Leon is going to try and send it here into turn 13, but thinks better of it. Daniel Lindblom just trying to shut the door wherever they can. But here's the nose to the inside. Tyler Hammer forcing their way through, and then Daniel Lindblom trying to come back, losing the rear end into the tight left-hander, and that will be battle for P5 done and dusted. Tyler Hammer into that 5th position.
That was reminiscent of a move we saw in DTM today, in the same section that part of the circuit is inspired by. But yes, a great move by Tyler Hammer to get the move done. And we've got some more fighting down the order. Brian James Anderson trying to make their way past Rune Bertolsen. Bertolsen losing the position briefly, but gets back up. It's going to be a look up the inside for Brian James Anderson. Anderson can't get close enough, though, to get alongside them through, and actually it looks like Rune Bertolsen's going to open up that gap. But obviously it's kind of stalled all their power heading into this right-hander, did Brian James Anderson, and it does mean they have fallen a little bit further back from the Mercedes. Just about now a minute to go in this race, so only a minute for Temenga to try and hold on to the lead, and only a minute now for Ralph Vest to try and put some pressure onto the car ahead of Zach Silver. But Silver has done a good job of opening that gap up. It looks like actually Ralph Vest is under some pressure more from the Ferrari behind. Craig Foreman is fighting to stay inside the top 10 as well, gets past the BMW of Toll. And Anton Temengo looks like they're set to head on to their final lap of this race and potentially back-to-back wins. And, well, I mean, it would be a very, very deserving result. Has absorbed the pressure from Matt Townsend, who you can see behind. But really, at one stage, it was a 4-car fight for the lead. We had Chris Downing, Matt Townsend, and James Cowley all fighting for the lead. But what Anton Temenga has done is just have raw pace, very brave overtaking instincts, and has just kept it consistent throughout. And it's and again, it's just showing how much of a diverse driver Anton Semenga is becoming. Last time out of Qatar, we saw how good his strategy was. It didn't necessarily have the raw pace, but made the correct call on the pit window and stole the win away from James Cowley. Today, it's just been he's really, really quick around this COTA venue, and no one's really been able to take anything to them. And the great thing about this as well is it keeps the championship alive heading into the final round. As we've seen, this is a bad round for James Cowley, but has 3 wins so far this season. Anton Semenga has 2, so potentially heading into Spa could try and make it 3 for themselves as well. So really, there's still so much to play for in this championship, but we'll focus on the now for now, and all that's happening for now is Anton Semenga makes their way through the final corner and up towards the start finish line. It's the second win of the season for Anton Semenga in the pro class, and they come across the line, weaves across. A great victory taken by the Mustang driver. Matt Townsend brings it home in second position. A little flash of the lights, a little bit of respect between the two drivers. Chris Downing briefly led at one stage in the race, but will have to settle for a third place in the McLaren. A good result for themselves. Petr Yelenek's just going to hold on from Tyler Hammer by the looks of it, unless there's a little mistake happening now. No is held on in by the looks of it as they head into the final corner for 4th position. At least turns the car through Cowley into the pit lane, so that's going to be 14th for them. As Petr Yelenek comes across the line, that's 4th position for them. Happy with that result. That is Petr. It's going to be a 5th place finish for Tyler Hammer in the end in this race. As we can see, Daniel Lindblom is going to have to settle for 6th in the end, as actually Zach Silver very slowly up towards the line and just beats out Ralph Fest to 7th position. Vest having to settle for 8th after staying behind. Craig Foreman is going to come across the line 2nd place in the amateur standings and 10th overall to round out their time at COTA. Rune Bertolson, it's going to be 3rd place for them here at COTA in the amateur class, and they're going to finish 11th overall. Brian James Anderson gave it his all, but is going to have to settle for 12th, with Tom Watson settling for 13th position at the end of this race. And it seems like everyone in the field has taken the checkered flag, and that rounds us out for round 5 of this season.
Yeah, what a race that was. Strategy being crucial. It spread the field out, but we had some good comeback drives from some of the drivers. Let us get the final race results up then, as Tom went through. Anton Semenga taking back-to-back wins. If they can win the next race, it will be 3 wins apiece between them and James Cowley. It would all come down to where they finished when they didn't win. Matt Townsend will take 2nd place. Chris Downing might be a little bit disappointed with 3rd place. Seems like they went a little different on the pit strategy, maybe taking too much fuel in the pit stop, and that dropped them off the fight for the lead. Petr Yelenek, best of the rest, will be happy with P4 as Tyler Hammer gets up to P5. Daniel Lindblom in P6. Good strategy call there, jumped them up the order. They couldn't hold on to a top 5. I'm sure they'll take a P6. Zach Silver will take 7th place, where Ralph Vest, who was fighting in the top half in the first half of the race, seems like a bit of a poor strategy call somewhere. Maybe a miscalculation in fuel once again, dropped them down the order. They recovered to P8, finishing ahead of Yaroshenko in P9, and Craig Foreman taking the final top 10 position. Rune Bertolson would take P11 from Brian James Anderson towards the end of the race. Tom Watson will take 13th place, and then a very, very strange sight to see for this season. James Cowley, who won the opening half of the season, the opening 3 races, had to settle for 2nd last time out. Certainly much better than the 14th place they seen today. Multiple mistakes from them as they struggled over the bumps that make up the circuit of the Americas, visiting the wall and quite a bit of damage to repair. they finished off the lead lap. Kieran Toll had issues, had to stop for a couple of laps, and will finish 3 laps down. Dave Sleckie and Simon Harris will be our 2 DNFs around a brutal circuit of the Americas. A very, very difficult day for them. They'll be hoping to bounce back when we return for the final round next week.
Yeah, and well, what a season it's been so far, and what a place to finish it as well. As I mentioned, 12th of October next weekend, Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be a fantastic race to close out this 6-week season on NMU on a Sunday night. And well, yeah, what a way to close us out! What a venue to close us out! It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, it will be. And I've had a little look at the predicted weather for next week. There's a little bit of rain in the air. How much rain will we see? That, well, you will have to tune in next week, 12th of October, as we head towards the final week of Season 5 of 2025 here at oNiD. It's been a fantastic series so far, but let's just have a little look at what's to come up over the next week. On Monday, we will have the final round, of course, of our multi-class series, Hypercars and GTEs. For one more round, they will be heading to, of course, the Circuit de la Sarthe Le Mans for their final 65-minute race. How will strategy differ there? Of course, Le Mans, a lot of streets opposite of what we've seen today here at COTA National. Fuel saving might be required a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers play the strategy there. On Tuesday, we head onto the original Losail Corsa for the final round of our IndyCar Championship. It's been a very eventful season, and it will probably continue to be so at the final round at Road America. What a great place to finish off the IndyCar season. A nice long lap, some long straights for some grid racing. Of course, that fun middle sector, especially the long carousel right-hander and the high-speed kink at the back end of the circuit. Should be fun. Make sure you join us for that full race control race as well. Safety cars will keep everyone on their toes when it comes to strategy. Then on Wednesday, we have our Sim Hound Academy on Le Mans Ultimate, where less experienced rookie drivers try and get up to speed, learn the ropes, gain some consistency as well. They'll also be heading to Le Mans at the Circuit de la Sarthe in their hypercars and GT3 cars for one final 50-minute race before on Thursday we have the Super Formula Lights on iRacing. Their final round, they will be heading to Austria, to the Red Bull Ring for their final good straights for slipstreaming, technical middle and final sector, which will challenge the drivers. Seen quite a few mistakes from drivers throughout that series, so I imagine we'll see some more, but some great slipstreaming. We've seen some great racing at Thruxton on Thursday just by, and so I'm sure Red Bull Ring will provide even more for the final round. And that's all before we return next Sunday for the final round of the Weekender Series. Heading to Spa, some mixed conditions to round Season 5 off. It should be a blast.
And well, the sad thing is we've got a week to wait until we get there, but at least we've got all these other fantastic series to keep us entertained before then. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, for me, this season's gone very quickly.
It has gone quite quickly. Of course, we used to have the 8-week seasons earlier in the year. We've had these 6 weeks, and I would say they've been a little more interesting. It's sort of, in a way, the same amount of action, but just slightly more condensed. You know, the season doesn't trail off as much as they used to. But yeah, it should be interesting. Just before we go, I've just brought the standings up on my second monitor. As you can see, Anton Temenga had a DNF in the third round of this series, so they've already used their drop round effectively, with James effectively using theirs today. James Cully mentioned has that second place, but Temenga, their non-race victories were 2 fourth places. If they win the race, they need James Cowley to have another difficult day next week if they want to take the pro standings. quick look at the AM standings. It is now very close, actually. Ralph Vest has jumped into the lead ahead of Craig. Sorry, not Craig Foreman. Charlie Morgan. Craig Foreman is now up to third. So the drop round sorting out, and in fact, quite a few drivers have missed a round in the AM series. So that has sort of keep things a bit more even. And yeah, the overall is fairly similar to how the pro standings were that we just mentioned. So that's how things are into next week. Apologies, can't get up on screen. It's not quite updated. But yeah, should be eventful to see what happens next week. Can James Kiley bring it home after a strong first half of the season to take the Pro Championship? Can Charlie Morgan fight back to try and retake the lead ahead of Ralph Vest? Well, we will just have to wait and see next week. It's been wonderful having all of you folks. Thank you to Ralph Vest and Jacob, Jack for subscribing. For your support is very much appreciated. And thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good start to your week tomorrow, everyone. And until next time, take care. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.